And I think that like all you really need is self-trust and a bit of confidence, not even that much confidence. You know, when you dance as if nobody's watching, you dance a lot better.
In today's episode, I welcome the fabulous Lisa Fox, who is in the business of confidence coaching. Lisa helps ambitious women be, do, and have everything they want without any guilt. Through coaching, Lisa guides women to grow their business success through growing their confidence. Her clients want to live life on their own terms without doubting themselves constantly. That means getting clear on their desires and then going after them with lioness determination. And Lisa is a fierce woman who is the embodiment of what she's teaching. This episode has a feel-good factor and that boost of motivation you may need today. She'll teach you that confidence is more important than competence in order to succeed. Lisa, you're so welcome to the Master Your Business show.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. It is an honor to be asked.
Lisa, anyway, I am so excited to have you here today, genuinely, because you are the queen of confidence. You are the lioness who is so fierce. And I really want to talk to you about your business journey, what got you to where you are today, and where does the confidence come into it? So yeah, just let it go.
Yeah, well, so what got me to where I am today? Well, where I am today, I suppose I have a business which is based around confidence coaching. And I help women in business mainly. Originally, it was mothers in business, but I think I have too many clients now who aren't mothers to say that it's still just mothers in business. But I would say still the majority of them are. To grow their business success through growing their confidence, basically. And so I've always felt like the most important thing for me is to be the embodiment of what I'm teaching. So I guess when I met you just over 18 months ago, I was at the very, very beginning of that journey. And like, I remember at the time not knowing what a launch was. I remember being surrounded by other women who were doing it at much higher levels than I was doing it in terms of business and business success. And I had already had a successful business, but it was an in-person business, which I hadn't quite made it to six figures in that business. But even while I was in the last couple of years of that business, which was a performing arts school, I knew that I wanted to have an online business. I knew that an online business, first of all, would give me much more scalability, but also would be so much more suitable as I had my kids and, you know, I wanted to be around them, you know. So yeah, so as I say, when I met you first, I was an absolute baby, hadn't a clue how I was going to do it. But something told me, if you're going to teach people about confidence, you've got to be the most confident you can be. And that, even though my life's work has been around confidence, it was a tall order, because actually, I think I have been the least confident person that I've ever known in real life. And you know, and now I call myself, and my clients call me, the confidence queen. And I've grown my business since we first met. I've grown this business to multiple six figures. So yeah, 18 months later, the success was triggering imposter syndrome.
Wow.
And that happens at every new level of success. I was like, oh yeah, that's that old nugget. You know, that happened to me a few months ago as well. That happened every time that I've kind of stepped into a new level of success and sort of had some sort of consciousness or awareness about it. It made me go, oh. And what it is that, for me at least, is like, I don't want anybody to think I'm too big for my boots. I don't want anybody's feelings to be hurt because they're comparing themselves to me. I don't want anybody who's further, you know, down the line from me, like, you know, behind me, looking at me going, I'll never catch up, or she must have something magical that I don't have, because I really don't believe that I do. But I know that the most important thing is showing up, number one, for yourself, allowing yourself to be seen and be visible, and allowing yourself to share your soul. And it's that joyous, and that sort of in the moment. And yeah, that the last couple of weeks, I was like, oh, I don't want anybody to feel like they can't be where I am. And then I realized, oh, okay, no, I'm here to shine my light. Me not shining my light does not mean that other people will, you know? Um, so it's a journey, and it's Deirdre, like that's the thing, no matter what, it's full of ups and downs. And no matter what, no matter how confident I become, no matter what new level I reach, I always realize the confidence doesn't really go like that. It goes up and down and up and down, and it can go in an upwards trajectory, but it's never a straight line.
Mhm.
And whenever, always when you reach a new level, it's usually followed by some sort of a dip because of old programming, old conditioning, especially for women. Not we're not supposed to. We're supposed to be nice. We're not supposed to outshine anyone. We're supposed to, wait in line. We're supposed to put our hands up. We're supposed to be good. We're supposed to think that a pat in the back is enough, and we're not supposed to be seen to be too driven, or you're not allowed to be wildly successful and a good mother, God forbid. Like, you have to choose one or the other. And there's a lot of work in getting rid of that.
Mm. And
Um,
that, like that stuff, where does it even come from, Lisa? Like, seriously, is this stuff that we say to ourselves, or is it stuff that we grew up with? Like, because you're right. I mean, all of those things are things that we say that make us feel not good enough, that make us feel inadequate. It's that inner critic that goes rampant or causes our imposter syndrome to like take over. Where does it come from? And why do we let it take over? Because it impacts not just our lives, but our businesses too, right?
yeah. I mean, I think that the reason it's so successful at taking over is because it's coming from so many different angles, and it's usually not direct. See, if somebody said to you, Deirdre, you're not allowed to do that because you're a woman, you'd be like, watch me do it. Because it would be so direct that you'd see it, right? But when there's kind of a subconscious cultural conditioning going on where it's like, I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. When I was teaching kids, I noticed, and I was disgusted with myself, but I'm so glad that I noticed it. So performing arts, it was mainly girls, right? And generally speaking, girls are well behaved. Girls put up their hand before they speak, and boys just have a different energy. Boys just are, boys will be boys, and I sort of thought that way too, because that's what I saw. But then I realized that I was part of the reason that the kids were behaving the way they were behaving in my classrooms. Because if a girl didn't put her hand up before, like, everybody was supposed to put their hand up before they spoke, and it was incredibly frustrating when the kids just started talking over each other, whatever. But when girls did it, you'd be shocked. You'd be like, no, put your hand up. When a boy did it, yeah, you'd be frustrated, but you're like, oh my God, why are the boys always like this? you know? And it was harder to insist on that same rule for them, because boys kind of are different. Like, I don't know if you've ever read a book called The Confidence Code. There is a DNA thing that actually makes boys more naturally confident. It's something to do with testosterone, right? Um, than girls. But, there's also the patriarchy. It's also much more convenient for society in it well, it's not, but it really isn't more convenient for society to keep girls in their boxes. But the patriarchy would think that it is, like, sure, like the whole gender pay gap thing, the whole thing. But we have it coming at us from so many different angles, and it's patriarchy. It's our own subconscious brains that are wired that way from watching our mothers, right? And from the, we inherited that from not just us watching our mothers, but from them watching their mothers. It's handed down in generations. You can't just, not that you can't, but it's difficult to just decide, I'm not going to be part of that, because you don't, a lot of the time you don't even realize that you're being part of that, and that you're going along with it and you're accepting it and you're making decisions based on the fact that this is just how things have been for such a long time. And then there's the whole sisterhood thing, like there's so many sisterhood wounds. And what's that thing, that metaphor, like crabs in a pot when the water, they're in the pot, the water is cold, and then you turn on the heat and the water starts to boil, and one crab tries to come out of the water, and actually to the other crabs it's more likely that they'll pull the crab back into the water than try to follow the crab and get out themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And as humans, we kind of are a bit like that. So there's so many ways that it comes at us from so many different angles, that we've got to make a decision, and we've got to be so committed to practicing deconditioning. Like, it has to be a daily habit, and even then we'll fail at it, and we'll still be conditioned, and that cultural narrative will continue, and that's why the progress can be slow.
Let's bring this back to confidence, right?
Mm,
Because you are the confidence queen, and like you said yourself, you haven't always felt that confident all of the time, and sometimes
mm,
you've even noticed yourself hiding. But yet
mm,
you have achieved multiple six figures in your
mhm,
business in
mm,
18 months or less.
mm.
So, what have you done that helped you get
Okay.
from where you were then to where you are now?
Okay.
And I mean, doing it with two small babies, and as you said, a baby on the boob, and
So before I answer that, and I will answer that, but I will say that what I do, everything that we were just talking about, though, is absolutely more about confidence than anything else,
mm,
because the confidence to be a feminist is supreme, right? The confidence to decondition yourself. If you have the confidence just to do that, you will make shifts in your business, I think. But so, how did I get from zero to multiple six figures with confidence, using confidence? So I wrote these things down before I came on, because I was like, I know I'm not, I'll probably lose my train of thought several times, but I have a number of mantras that I've sort of, that have carried me through. Now, obviously, Deirdre, these aren't the only thing, but I think that everything that I do and everything that I teach is kind of based on these principles, right? The first one is this: the less perfect I am, the more money I make. Because perfectionism really is the total thief of confidence. And again, of course, there are men who are perfectionists as well, but show me a woman who's not a perfectionist, you know? And actually, what perfectionism does is it slows us down, or worse, it stops us completely. But we've been told as women that, like, the perfectionism is a good thing. We've been told, oh yeah, no, like I've seen it so many times, even with parents who, when they brought their kids to me, it's like, if their daughter was dying of stage fright and in a complete heap before a performance, the parent would be like, often would be like, oh, she's just a perfectionist, she likes to get everything just right. And I remember, like, that it really struck me. I was like, and why are you teaching her that perfectionism is a good thing then? Why are you teaching her that she's a good girl because she's trying to be perfect?
mhm.
And that's something that I really carried with me into my business, because I noticed myself, Deirdre, before, okay, in the last 18 months, I've had enormous success. But what you don't see, and what people often don't really want to talk to me about, is years before, when I had decided I was going to have an online business, and I failed and failed again and failed again and failed again, and just couldn't get it moving. And the big reason I couldn't get it moving was because I was trying to do everything right. I was trying to be perfect. I wanted everything to be perfect before I took massive action. I wanted everything, all my ducks to be in a row before I could get visible. Oh my God, I spent so much money, time, energy, everything, all my resources on having the perfect website with the perfect online course on it that sold one, because I kind of forgot that it's not about having a perfect course. It's more about putting it out there, putting yourself out there, marketing. I kind of completely forgot that you had to market. I mean, I knew as an idea you had to market, and I think I thought I was marketing. I actually think that I thought I was doing it. But if I look back, there was no calls to action. There was no shouting out from the rooftops about my amazing online course. And so when I started to realize that it was perfectionism, I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to do this completely imperfectly. And when I took that attitude, I started making money. And when I started making money, and I was like, oh my God, that's totally linked to not being perfect. And I was like, the less perfect I am, the more money I make. And I just started saying to myself, the less perfect I am, the more money I make. And the more I've said it, the more it's true, right? And so,
I
yeah.
love that mantra because that helps us just bloody feel the fear or do it anyway. Go
That's
for it. Just get out there and do it. I love it.
And Deirdre, I made in my signature program is, well, it's now called the Lair Academy, but it's getting a rebrand and it's going to be called the Confidence Queen Academy.
You heard it here first,
You
folks.
heard it. But so when I started that first, I didn't have a sales page for it. I did a workshop and I talked about it and I booked people onto sales calls. And I remember when people asked me for the link, I would send them the link to a Google Doc where I had written a couple of bits about it, and there was a payment link on it and stuff. But it was like, there was no like system. There was no there wasn't much of a strategy either. But I was like, this has to happen now. It doesn't. If I wait for the perfect website and the this, that, and the other, I knew it would be another 6 months to a year before I would get the thing up and running. For the first year of that program, I didn't even have a course platform. I didn't even have like there was a course attached, but it was just in the guides section of my Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody batted an eyelid. They just wanted what I had. And so the less perfect I was, the more money I made. And it still holds true for me today. The other thing, this is another thing that really helped to get me going. And it doesn't, so this particular one maybe doesn't resonate for me so much anymore, but I still use this with a lot of my clients and it works for a lot of my clients. Nobody's watching.
I'm writing these down, Lisa, because I love it. Yeah.
So it's that thing about like when when you dance as if nobody's watching,
Mm-hmm.
you dance a lot better, right? And people get so hung up on on social media about the vanity metrics and like how many likes did I get? Nobody's commenting on my stuff, blah blah blah. How many followers do I have? And actually, like this, the people who buy from you usually aren't the people who like your stuff. They're generally not the names that you see in the comments of your posts. They're generally not people who reply to emails or, like sign up for your freebies a lot of the time, even, right? And sometimes they are. But like, I remember at the beginning, I can't remember, somebody suggested it to me. Just don't worry about the numbers, like, because it really doesn't mean anything. And somebody had said to me, actually, the people who generally buy from you are not the people who are going to be engaging in your stuff. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to take that as a sign that actually nobody really, it doesn't matter if it seems like nobody cares. And I also was like, I remember like, when I would write posts and write content or, like do videos, you have this equal thing, right? And I know you'll understand this, where if you're going live on video, right? This equal desire to have hundreds of people watching, and also this knowledge that if they were, you'd probably choke, especially at the beginning of your business, right? So it's
Totally.
like, I hope nobody watches, and I really, but why didn't anybody watch, right? But when you let go of, it doesn't matter if anybody's watching. I used to, whenever I went live, especially, I would go, I'm going to present this and I'm going to deliver this as if there are hundreds of people watching. I'm actually going to deliver it as if it's a recording and I'm speaking to the people who will watch it, not the people who are watching it live. Now, it still can be quite difficult when you see the little thing up in the corner of the screen going, one person, one eyeball, or 0 eyeballs, it still you still kind of have to almost coach yourself through the moment and go, it doesn't matter, I'm doing this for everybody who will watch, because that energy is very different than the deflated energy of, oh, nobody's watching, maybe nobody cares. And instead it's like, okay, nobody's watching, so actually I can delete this video afterwards if I need to. Doesn't matter, I'm just going to let loose, I'm going to say what I have to say, and it doesn't matter because nobody's watching, and I can take it down if I want to, right? And it gives that idea that no one's watching and no one cares, gives you more of a feeling like you're just practicing, and it doesn't really matter that much. So it doesn't matter if you get it right or wrong. And it feeds into that, the less perfect I am, the more money I make thing. Now, I will say that these days, I know there are people watching, and I know that there are a lot of people who care. And that's amazing. And it's also something that can be a little bit scary. And I do know that, a lot of people, the reason that they don't get their businesses going to that big level, they don't go big, and that's that thing of being small and safe, is because of a fear of getting it wrong, and a fear of being attacked, and a fear of, somebody calling them out. Um and that's come up for me, like, not that I haven't been attacked or anything like that, but it, like, in smaller ways, it's come up for me and my clients, because there was this big drama in the online space where this big coach attacked another big coach, and it brought up a lot of visibility fears for my clients, and they were like, see, this is the reason I'm afraid to go big, because that's what's going to happen to me.
Mm.
And so we did a whole thing around it, and it was really good for me as well to kind of think that through, and actually to see the way that particular situation played out, to see the coach who was attacked really advocate for herself, really stand up for herself, handle it beautifully, and handle it like a leader, and show a different example of, so rather than, like, we think, and I know I definitely used to think that if I was attacked, that almost the only option you would have would be to run away and hide. And to see somebody else operating where they didn't run and hide. Yeah, they suffered. Yes, it was difficult, but they advocated for themselves. They showed up as a leader, and she actually came out on top. And it's all about, I think, with that sort of situation, it's all about having a plan, like knowing that you can have a safety plan, a plan to make yourself feel safe if shit hits the fan, but also knowing that it doesn't actually happen that much. It very, very rarely happens. The likelihood of it actually happening to you, in fact, it's just as likely to happen to you when you're being small and safe as it is when you're big and badass. So you may as well learn how to handle those things, and how to really have the confidence to advocate for yourself and be a leader for yourself. Um, what else? Then, okay, the other one is, show up, show up, show up, and show up some more, no matter what. And when you're not showing up, ask yourself, why am I showing up? Like today for me, it hit me. I was like, why am I not posting so much? I thought it was because it's like, am I tired? Is the year coming to an end? Like, am I winding down? And I was like, no, I don't think that's it. you know? Um, so it was like that awareness of the fact that I wasn't showing up as I normally would made me go, okay, why am I not showing up? And yeah, it was like, I could see, as soon as I was like, I literally wrote down, why am I not showing up? And then the thoughts all came out. I was like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Um, but if you, I read this book at the very beginning of my journey called Expert Secrets by a guy called Russell Brunson. Do you know the book?
I know it very well.
And like, I mean, I really like that book. I don't use his strategy at all that he talks about in the book, but there's some really good nuggets in that book. But he says, like, something, I can't remember the exact quote, but like, if you show up every single day for a year, you will never have to worry about money again. And I was like, I can get on board that ship.
Yeah.
I was like, that makes showing up well worth it. That makes showing up and not knowing whether it's going to work out feel a little bit more enticing. That makes the idea of Like, because that's the thing, we get so swept up in when we have that sort of negative event or bad launch, or we try to sell a thing and it just doesn't go well, and we all have that. What does the rejection mean? And we all go into, maybe it means I shouldn't be doing this, or this is not meant for me. But if you were guaranteed, like if there was like a guarantee at the end of a year, right, that it's going to work, you wouldn't make that one incident mean very much. You'd just be like, okay, well, but it's coming, you know. And I just think that for me was a complete game changer. Like, if you show up every single day for a year, you'll have more money. Yeah, you'll make more money than you know what to do it. And that has been true for me.
Amazing. Lisa,
Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I'm always talking about that. You have to show up and be consistent and persistent, right? That's how I
Yeah.
describe it. Be consistent and persistent.
Yeah.
And like one of the things with showing up, and this is something I say to all my clients as well, is that like when it comes to your marketing, especially as you're growing and scaling, and marketing, as you say, you didn't realize you had to market the business as well. Like, and a lot of people achieve incredible success without ever really having to market their
Yes.
business. And
Mm.
so sometimes what happens then is they get to the stage where their business is growing, and now all of a sudden they have the time because they've hired people in to help them and they can delegate out some of the work. But when it comes to marketing the business, all of a sudden it feels like now, oh my God, I've got so much pressure to show up every day. And how can I do it? And I have to be on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And now there's freaking TikTok, and how can I do all the things? And it just
Yeah.
feels so overwhelming to them.
Yeah.
So, what's your advice? What do you say to people when they come to you? Because I'm sure they do with, oh
Yeah.
my God, I have to be on social media.
Yeah.
How do I
Yeah.
do it, Lisa?
You
What?
don't have to do it. You don't have to do all the things. You don't have to be everywhere. In fact, it's much better to be focus on one and get really good at that. And it can be beneficial to then, like, d- train yourself up in another platform, or, like, figure out the ins and outs of it. But, like, I would say that all of my success so far has just been from Facebook mainly. A little bit of Instagram. And I'm always trying to build my email list. I'm not like, I know, I'm aware that that's like business wise, Facebook goes down, you're fucked. Like, so I don't want to have all my eggs in that basket. But like, it's like I wouldn't concern myself too much with, from the very beginning, like, going, I have to be everywhere. And even when you're further down the line, you still don't have to be everywhere. Like, I know lots of, big names in the industry who are just on Instagram, or they're, and like that. I think if it's a social media thing, if your main platform is a social media thing, everybody is aware that you need to also have, an email list or something else. That's, like, I don't even know. This is the thing. I couldn't tell you a thing about SEO. I could not tell you one thing about it, or coming up first on a Google ranking. I don't even know the words. Like, I don't know how to, even like from the point of view of like, like some people talk about like how important websites are. I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure they're right, but I don't really understand like all the ins and outs of it. I don't know how to put my course up on Kajabi. Like, Deirdre, I so for a long time, as I told you, I was hosting my program just on Facebook. And I was like, when I can afford to have an assistant, no, I was like, when I have the time, I'll figure out how to do this Kajabi thing, right? So, and then I was like, and by then I'll probably have an assistant who can help me with it, right? Uh and so when I got a minute, I was like, okay, let's have a look at this Kajabi thing. Like, I can't keep going on Facebook. I was like, I think I had over 40 people in my group at that point, and I was like, uh, I was starting to feel like, okay, it needs a platform. And it did. But I was like, opened up Kajabi, was like, okay, I'm getting better at this tech stuff. Like, definitely, I know my way around Facebook. Uh, you know, and I can use Zoom. And there's certain, like, I've gotten a little bit better with the tech. But so I thought maybe I'll actually be able to get my head around this Kajabi thing. And I know I had tried it a couple of years before, and I was like, no, can't do it, can't do it. Like, spent days trying to do it, couldn't do it. And so when I came back to it, I was like, right, I'll give this an hour. And if I can upload a module, figured that out, then I can do anything. I'm a superhero. And I couldn't do it, Deirdre.
You're still a superhero, Lisa.
To say that it is not my zone of genius is like the biggest understatement ever in the world. Now, there are people who'll say to you, you have to know how to do that. Like, it's really important for you to be able to do that. And maybe they're right, and maybe it'll bite me in the ass. I don't know, but okay, I have a wonderful assistant, and she just did it in minutes without tears. She was like, "Yeah, I can do that for you, perfect." I kind of feel like if for some reason I lose her, and I really don't plan to, but like if I lose her for some reason, I'll just hire somebody else who understands Kajabi, and I'll just go, "Can you pick up where she's left off?" Do you know what I mean? Like, so like I just think there's this myth that like we have to do it all ourselves, and we have to. I always my one of my other favorite mantras is there's always more than one way to skin a cat. You don't have to do anything in any particular way, and usually if somebody is telling you you have to do it this way, it's because they're trying to sell you something,
Mhm.
you know. And not that there's anything wrong with selling. Confidence sells, but it's like I just think it's wrong. Like, it's wrong. You can do things anyway, and you can do it completely imperfectly, and especially to get yourself going, to get yourself, you mentioned about like your audience are kind of at that stage where they're hiring support to help them to scale. They're hiring that, like, help from the outside, whether it's their mindset or whatever it is. And I think that, like, all you really need is self-trust and a bit of confidence, not even that much confidence, like just enough confidence to like take a step. Somebody said, I'm so bad with remembering where quotes come from, but somebody said, one of the most important most important skills you can have in business is the ability to make decisions. But I think it's not an ability to make decisions, it's confidence to make decisions. Like, because we think so often like decisions are either right or wrong. They're going to either lead to success or failure. But it's like, yes, and that's right. But it's like, who said that failure was a bad thing? Failure is just such a necessary part of how we build our businesses. And having the confidence to fail and fail again and fail better next time, and use every single failure as a stepping stone towards where you're ultimately going, which we call success. But even that, it's like, it's not a destination, because success is what you experience along the way. But as soon as you land to the place where you said, okay, I'll know I've succeeded when I make 10K months, guess what? Then you're going to want to make 20K. Then you're going to want to make 30K. And the ability to make the decisions to get you there, and the ability to like, and the confidence to call the shots and go, yes, that's what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, because it's what feels right for me, and it will lead me somewhere. It'll get me into action. And I really think, like, hiring people that's a whole other ball game, right? Have you
Mm.
done that? Have you been in that arena yet?
Yes. And for
Mm,
anybody listening to the podcast, I've got an amazing person helping me produce it.
yeah.
So yeah, and a team of others who've helped me on the journey thus far as well. And that's something, I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody earlier today, and in fact looking at some strategic planning for business. And one of the things we talked about was, if you look at all of the people who are currently your stakeholders, customers, accountants, solicitors, content creators, VAs, you name it, anyone who's in your circle when it comes to your business,
Mm,
are you happy with all of them? Because you don't need to keep all of your existing customers if you're not happy with them.
yeah.
If they're draining and sucking the life out of you, it is okay to say goodbye and thank you and find
Mhm.
others.
Mm.
Equally, if you've got people on your team who are supposed to be advising you, but aren't au fait with what your strategic plan is, don't really care or want to know or help advise and guide you on that way, well, then maybe they're not the right people for your team.
Yeah.
And that's okay to say goodbye to them too. And one thing I learned from another great book, and I'm going to have to get all of these books and list them after this show, Lisa, but one was from Howard Schultz, who is the CEO of, who was the CEO of Starbucks. And a lesson I learned from Howard Schultz was that when you're hiring someone, hire for the business that you visualize in the future, not for where your business is at today.
Mm.
Because if you want to get and reach that next level, you need people who are more capable than the level you're at right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's a badass move though. And all badass moves are scary as hell. And that's why I think, see, this is where the confidence thing comes in. Confidence is feeling scared and going, this is normal though. There's nothing wrong with me. And it's like, it's the same thing where it comes to like hiring people. One person will go, oh, I made a mistake hiring that person. I'm not good at hiring people. Whereas the other person will go, that person's not helping me in my business. Goodbye, see you later. Who's next?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with me. But what we don't really talk about enough, I think, is like when it comes to hiring and it comes to getting the right support for your business, you're going to make mistakes. Like you're going to, I think I heard something like three out of every people, if 3 out of every 4 people you hire will not be the right fit, and you will
Mm-hmm.
have to get rid of them. And if you're lucky, 1 out of 4 will actually be great and a good hire. And when I heard again, it's like when I heard that, I was like, so there's nothing wrong with me for making the wrong hires because I've done it loads. I've done it way more than I've made good hires. Like, at the moment I have my VA who is incredible, like so good. But I had 3 or 4 VAs before her, and I felt like now part of it was me. Part of it was me not knowing what to ask a VA to do or not having the confidence to ask for what I wanted or learning how to um learning through trial and error, learning through mistakes, learning through failure, you know. And actually I did have one VA who was amazing, like really amazing, and I had to fire her because she got quite disgruntled when she saw how much money I was making, and she was like, she wanted a cut of it.
He was
It's
one of
like,
them crabs pulling you back into the
that's
boiling
right.
pot, Lisa.
Yeah. And it really, Deirdre, it really made me feel for a little while like I'm a bad person, something wrong with me. I believe we're always projecting, right? So I do believe that part of me attracted somebody who felt like she was owed something, somebody who didn't really understand the dynamic of the business relationship because I'm an overgiver and I have that thing in me where it's like I can't keep anything just for me. I have to, like, if I have €1, I have to give you 50 cents just because that's fair, right? And so I believe that there was part of me that was projecting that, right? And I attracted that person in because of it. But it taught me a very valuable lesson because when it came down to it, and she wanted to have a conversation with me, and she was like, I mean, I was paying her very, very well actually. But she was like, I feel like I should be getting a percentage. I was like, where, like, this is not a renegotiation. And if it was, you're going the wrong way about it, you know? But, I just think all of those things happen to teach you a very important lesson. And instead of taking it like there's something wrong with me, it's like, no, this is just a lesson that I have to learn.
Mm. And Lisa, there's just one thing because I know I could talk to you all day, and like seriously, we've been talking for a good while already now, but like I actually could talk to you all day. And there's just one thing you touched on, and I want to take you back there a little bit for a moment, if I may, because actually it comes back to another lesson and another conversation that I had today, which was to do with you talked about the fear of failure, right?
Mm,
And being afraid to fail and the confidence to fail, right?
mm,
And that really strikes me. But equally, a conversation I had today was about the fear of success and
Mm,
the confidence to succeed and what that looks like, and how equally it can hold you back from taking those steps. As you say, having just enough confidence to take the step. So, could I bring it back to that? And then I promise I'll let you go because I'm enjoying this conversation so much. I just have to ask you this though.
yeah.
So, about that fear of failure and fear of success, can you just talk a little bit more about that for people? Because
Mm,
I think that really resonates with a huge number of people, especially those who are listening. Because, you know, for me, I fear both. If I'm being totally
mhm,
honest, I do. I have a fear of failure, which sometimes holds me back. But equally, I know what it's like to fear success as well.
mm,
What are
mm.
your thoughts?
Well, okay. I think that a big part of the reason why I've been able to do what I've done and what I'm continuing to do, and as you know, my ambition is to be seven figures in 2023. Um, but I think that part of it is letting go of the idea of failure and success as big, because they're almost like they're the same. What is it? Two sides of the same coin, right? They're so connected. Like, people say, um, if, what do I need to do to succeed? Like, and all of my clients, that's what they come to me for because they want to succeed, right? But from a law of attraction point of view, which I talk about all the time, we often say like, I want to succeed, and then the universe gives you a little bit of success, and the first thing you say is that's not enough, right? And then the universe goes, it backs off and it goes, well, okay, so that's not what you want. All right then. So let's back to the drawing board. And so we're sending out these mixed messages all the time. But when I think that when we're like I said earlier, the post that I wrote about today, that was fear of success. That those things, it's like fear of success happens when it's our subconscious mind trying to keep things the same, because to the subconscious mind, as long as things are the same, they're safe. Even if when things are the same, they're really shit, right? There's just something that says no, but at least we know. It's like better the devil you know. Where when we don't know what success will bring, and we have an awareness that, you know with success can actually come some, it's like new level, new devil. There's always another side of it, and the same thing with failure. It's like, but if I fail, there's this shame that comes along with failure, or doing the wrong thing, or not being in the right, or not making progress. And they're working against each other all the time, right? So when you're both holding on to that failure thing and being afraid of it, and kind of going, but I want to go towards success, but I'm kind of afraid of it too. It's like you're stuck, right? So that's why so many people get stuck at a certain level. It's like, okay, that's the safe level, right? And no matter what they do, they're equally afraid of failure and success, and so they stay stuck. So I kind of try and let go of all of it. I try and see, like, as I said, failure is not good or bad. It's just part of success. I also see success as not really good or bad. It's just a pit stop on the journey, right? It's not, I know that no matter what it is, that whatever goal that I'm going towards, it is such a cliche, but it's like the real enjoyment is in the journey towards it. So you kind of have to choose and decide to enjoy all of the stuff that you can enjoy on the way, right? Because once you get to the 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K, whatever it is, there's going to be some shit things, and there's going to be some great things. And you're going to want to go to the next level.
It's as they say, isn't it? Enjoy the journey, not the destination.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in practicing. And so, like, I do things with my clients, like, I'll ask them at the beginning of every call, what are they celebrating? Like, what wins do they have? And it's like, I notice with one-to-one clients, this is much more often with one-to-one clients. When you say at the beginning of a call, what are your wins? They're like, oh God, oh yeah, I knew you were going to ask me this. What are my wins? I don't know. I can't think of any. Can't think of any. And then as you go through the session, they're like, oh yeah, I suppose that is a win. And you're kind of pointing it out to them and you're going, well, isn't that a win? Oh my God, you made 3K last week. Like, how is that not a win? And they're like, oh yeah. And they're forgetting to enjoy and celebrate all these things. And another thing I say to people is when they say anything like, oh, I did this or I achieved that or I feel good about this, is like, how are you celebrating that? And one of my clients said to me, but am I really supposed to celebrate every single win? I'm like, yeah. I don't mean you have to go out for dinner and champagne because a client said, "Hey, I like you very much, and I, I'm enjoying this relationship." But it's that, like for me, whenever I make any sale at all, whether it's a 55 € sale or a 5,000 € sale or more, you can bet your ass I do a little happy dance. I do at least a woo, for every single thing that I have asked for. When I receive what I have asked for, I celebrate it because you're also, number one, you're training yourself to see the success and enjoy the journey. But you're also training the universe, who's like a puppy dog that really, really wants to please its master. It's like, so yeah, you brought me that thing. You give it a pet in the head. You go, yeah, good boy, good boy. And it goes out, and you go, okay, I want that now, and they go off and get it for you, fetch, you know. But I think, as I said, Deirdre, it's a practice. It's not something that like you're going to wake up tomorrow and know how to enjoy the journey. But you can decide every day, okay, I'm going to acknowledge my wins. I'm going to see all the messes I'm making and the chaos as part of the journey as well. I see the silver linings. I notice the lessons. I turn shit into gold on a daily basis. And I choose that because it's easy. Like I had a situation last week where a client complained, which doesn't happen very often, but she's in one of my higher level containers. And she was like, I thought this was supposed to be a higher level container. And I was like, ouch, ouch. Um, and the first reaction that you have, and it's so human and normal, it's like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. Maybe I'm no good, maybe this is all shit, maybe she's right, maybe this is not a higher level container, maybe I've severely overcharged people for this, whatever. And you can choose to stay in that, or you can choose to turn that shit into gold and go, okay. And for me it was like, okay, the first question is always, is it true? Is it true? Or why does she think that? Why is she coming at it from this perspective? And in that particular situation, it was just a client who hadn't been showing up, you know, and she was blaming it on the fact that she felt she wasn't getting enough reminders. They got 3 reminders for every call, but or that I don't know, there was some issue in her calendar where she hadn't added all the calls to her personal calendar. It was available for her, but she hadn't done it. And she was just frustrated with herself that she wasn't getting the value out of something that she was paying a lot of money for. And so I was just like, okay, first of all, what's going on? We talked about it. And I was like, okay, let's rectify this situation. Let's make sure that you get the most out of this, you know? And, like it ended up being great. Like, and it ended up being the best thing that could have happened. But I know that me in the past, there would have been probably a bit of a meltdown situation. There probably would have been tears. I probably would have like given her a full refund on the spot and then say, here, just be in the thing for free, you know? But you can choose. You can choose. You can choose to advocate for yourself. You can choose to see all the silver linings of all the failures. And you can choose that every single failure brings you to success. And you can also choose that success, while it is amazing, it's just part of the joy of the journey. There's no such thing as ultimate success. It's just a
Lisa,
fun thing.
that was, I don't know, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I thought that was a little bit profound. Thank you, Lisa. Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're
I have
welcome.
just the last question I always ask everyone is, have you anything else that you'd like to add or share? Like what's happening for you in the next while? And again, and I'm going to throw all the questions into one. And so the final question is like, so for the people who are aspiring, they're dreamers, they're believers, and they want to have a business like you where they're six-figure CEOs, aspiring seven-figure CEOs, or even more than that, is it even possible?
Yes, it's possible. It is possible. It's beyond possible. It's just a decision, actually. That's what I believe. Like I'm multiple six figures now, and it's sure as there's shit in a cat, as we say here in Ireland. I am going to be at seven figures, whether it's next year or a couple of years' time. It it's on the way, but it's a decision. Confidence sells. Like that's the long and the short of it is that really I think it's about, as I say, making that decision that it's a non-negotiable, that you're going to do the thing, right? But also letting go a little bit of how it's going to happen. You know, you can have ideas about how it's going to happen, but you can never tell the future, right? It's all about being flexible and rolling with the punches and honoring yourself through the process. Like you can decide, I'm going to do it like this. And as you're on your way to doing it like this, start hating your life and decide, I'm fucking not going to do it like that, you know? And you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to turn around. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to do it in whatever way makes your heart sing and makes you feel like you're alive. But it's just a decision. And I think number one, making that decision. Number two is actually really about getting the right people around you, Deirdre. Like I think it's about getting the right people around you. And I mean that in the sense other people who have similar goals, also people who can support you. So whether that's your team or a mentor, but equally having people that do believe in you. Business buddies, but also people who are not in business. Like it's important to have love, like both inside and outside your business, but it starts with you loving yourself.
Oh, Lisa, I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh, there's so much wisdom and nuggets here. And the three things, folks, for those of you who just need a little recap at the end: the less perfect I am, the more money I make. Nobody's watching and nobody gives a shit. And show up, show up, show up. Those were
Yeah.
some of the main three takeaways from today's session with Lisa. Lisa, I'm going to put all your details in the show notes. And
Great.
thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Deirdre.
Bye. Please rate and review the Master Your Business podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, or share with a friend who may need that small boost of confidence in order to thrive.